Well, hello everyone. My name is Zachary O'Shea, and this is Box of Teeth. I am another horror-themed Dungeons & Dragons monster for all of you right now. Today we have the very last minion for the Universal Antagonist that I am cleaning up here this week, which is the Groom. He's basically a riff on Frankenstein's monster, but he's not the first of these creations made. That would be the Relic, who is female. The Relic really wanted to have a mate, thus she constructed the Groom, but it did it incorrectly, and he came out pretty much as an opposing force. Now these two titanic forces of evil clash against one another and cause damage to the world around him. The Groom covers a couple of different horror subgenres, that being scientific horror, a little bit of gothic horror, some body horror, and cosmic horror, and this last minion, the Abatadire, really covers that cosmic horror angle. With the Relic, she had a fragment of kind of divinity of some ancient cosmic entity that was in the middle of her chest that empowered her. The Groom has an extinguished version of that, and that's what we're going to kind of explore with this monster. The Abatadire should be swimming in the cold, lifeless gap between the spheres instead of poisoning the material plane with its very presence, yet here it is. This 15-foot-long atrocity resembles an armored prehistoric fish with plates of polished meteorite, scales of space dust, and a core of swirling stars. Being entranced by its beauty risks missing the aberration's reinforced jaws until it's too late. Non-Euclidean sigils sizzle across its asymmetrical fins and shift as the Abatadire rains arcane fury down on its foes. The Groom has always been pulled by an uncanny force to the frigid wastes of the world. This living golem has always felt this extinguished bit of his soul and kind of the hole that is there, and has always felt that somewhere underneath this timeless ice lays the pieces he needs to put it all back together. On one of his forays, the Groom found a fossil that ended up being an Abatadire and felt a kinship to it. However, despite his great strength, because as winter deepened, he was not able to dig it up. He returned the next summer with a fresh Nepenthe cult to do a lot of the work for him. Now, while many of the nihilists died due to the elemental exposure during that time, eventually the fossil was uncovered, and as soon as the golem touched it, life, but not as we know it, returned to the Abatadire and it animated. The golem, as usual, passively watched as it devoured the remains of the cult that was with him. And then afterwards, he smiled for the very first time. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the Abatadire's statistics for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. The Abatadire is a challenge rating 10 huge aberration that is chaotic evil. It's very beefy with a high armor class, a high number of hit points, some saving throw bonuses. It is immune to cold, poison, and then weapon damage from non-magical sources. It is also immune to the frightened, poisoned, and prone condition. It only has a speed of 5 feet, but it's a fish-like thing that swims through the air, so it has a flight of 40 feet with hover. Ability-wise, the Abatadire, since it has twinkling stardust in it, and it has the sigils on its fins, it does have the illumination ability, so it glows at the strength of a candle with a range of 30 feet. It has magic resistance. On top of that, it does also have spell casting, so it casts as a 12th level wizard, so it has a lot of really nasty spells it can bring to bear if it needs to do so. Attack-wise, it has those massive jaws that I mentioned that do a decent amount of damage, plus it can also infect with the Lethe Curse, which I have mentioned on previous versions of the Groom's minions. It does have etherealness, and then its big nasty attack is Devolve Mind. So the Abatadire chooses a creature it can see with an intelligence of 6 or greater. That creature has to make a save, or its intelligence gets reduced to 3. It loses hard concepts such as speaking and the like, so it can't cast spells or use tools. However, that creature now gains advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws, and a +2 damage on any sort of strength-based attacks that hit, and it may also now dash as a bonus action. So sometimes it can use it on adventurers, say it needs to knock down a wizard or a sorcerer, or it can use it on its own minions so they become dumber, but they also become more deadly in melee combat. Again, this only lasts a minute, but Dispel Magic or Remove Curse or similar spells will remove that effect. All right, there we go. We've covered the Abatadire. You can find it, the Groom, the rest of the Groom's minions, and hundreds more horror-themed monsters, all for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. They're all perfectly free at boxofteeth.blogspot.com. If you're more interested in the non-Dungeons & Dragons role-playing projects that I have, or the horror fiction that I write that includes grease paint right here, Book 2 will be out later this summer, so stay tuned. This one has a killer clown, so good fun read. You can always go to www.zacharyoshay.com. Thank you again, as always, for your time and your attention, and have a great rest of the night ahead of you.